Very pretty. That was just so pretty. Well, I'm going to chat for a little while with you before we move into the ritual section of our service today. I mentioned Brené Brown earlier. I don't know if you've read her book, Daring Greatly, How the Courage to be Vulnerable Transforms the Way We Live, Love, Parent, and Lead. He starts the book with a quote by Theodore Roosevelt. This is a quote from his speech, Citizenship in a Republic. So let me share that with you because I think it is germane to where we're headed today. It is not the critic who counts, not the person who points out how the strong one stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the person who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes up short again and again. Because there is no effort without error or shortcoming. It is they who actually strive to do the deeds, who know great enthusiasm, great devotion, who spend themselves in a worthy cause, and who at best, in the end, experience the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if they fail while daring greatly. So why do you think Brené Brown would start with this particular quote? And how does vulnerability relate to this daring greatly? Well, Brené Brown is not only a social worker, but she's also a researcher. So she's researched this, and she has found that vulnerability and authenticity are foundational to living a successful life. To be a good person, a good parent, a good leader, according to Brown, we must acknowledge and own our feelings, not avoid them, not distract from them, not deny them. She writes, vulnerability is not weakness. And the uncertainty, the risk, and emotional exposure we face every day are not optional. Our only choice is a question of engagement. Our willingness to own and engage with our own vulnerability determines the depth of our courage and the clarity of our purpose. The level to which we protect ourselves from being vulnerable is a measure of our fear and our disconnection. When we spend our lives waiting until we're perfect or bulletproof before we can walk into the arena, we are ultimately sacrificing relationships and opportunities that may not be recoverable. We squander precious time, and we turn our backs on the gifts, the unique contributions that we might be able to make. Embracing our vulnerability helps us to learn more about ourselves as we move through our own personal limitations, as we grow and transform, and as we accomplish perhaps some pretty amazing things. However, embracing vulnerability is certainly not easy. We may be reluctant to fully feel our emotions, especially the uncomfortable ones. And sometimes it's hard to sit with some of our emotions, waiting to understand what they have to teach us. oftentimes we don't feel like we have the time to wait, much less the inclination to wait. Waiting for our innermost selves to guide us as we try to determine direction. Vulnerability can mean asking others to be by our side as we make sense of our feelings and our direction. And it takes courage to be with others, to share our vulnerability with them. Because at that time when we are most vulnerable, we are also so vulnerable that we might get really hurt by someone who isn't trustworthy, adding bruises to our already bruised heart. I know the risks of being vulnerable. I have lived them all. Sometimes I felt unbearable pain, hurt, anger, sadness, grief. And sometimes I wondered, what am I going to learn from this? And sometimes I didn't learn anything at all. And sometimes what I learned came much later than I would have liked. Some of the people I trusted with my vulnerability have hurt me. Sometimes being vulnerable was frightening, overwhelming, especially when I was dealing with feelings that I had avoided sometimes for years. But despite all that and all these risks, I will not avoid vulnerability again. My vulnerability makes me more self-aware, and from that I am more authentic, truer to myself, and truer to other people. Being my truest self, flawed and vulnerable, even in public settings, has brought me many gifts. Grace, compassion, a surprising number of blessings. Being vulnerable with myself and others I trust has strengthened my ministry, broadened my social justice work, and deepened my relationships. When I share who I am and what I have faced with my wife, my family, my fellow Unitarian Universalists, my close friends, I develop more clarity on my direction and my decisions and my focus. Vulnerability has helped me to develop and embody my intentions for the future. So my friends, today I'm going to invite you to embody some vulnerability. You can take this as an invitation, as lightly or as deeply as you choose. We are all here for one another, and I will be available after the service if something comes up and you want to share with someone that you can talk to. You can participate in the rituals that we'll offer you in a few moments. You can start, you can stop, you can choose what you participate in. There are 4 stations that you'll get an option to use. There is no requirement to participate. You will not be shamed if you do nothing but sit there and watch everybody else do this. Choice is sacred to Unitarian Universalists, and these are opportunities, choices available to you in a few moments. We believe in the inherent right of every person to have full authority and agency over their choices. Choices they make about their lives, about their agency over choices, about their bodies. This is a place of spiritual and human imperative. This is a place for liberation as you make your choices, for we are a liberating faith. I am here and we are here for you wherever you are on your journey, whatever you might need today, and for whatever choices you might make as we proceed. First, to let you know that this ritual, or these rituals, were developed by Unitarian Universalist minister Reverend Carol Thomas Sissel. And she found a ritual that was published in a place called The Promise and the Practice. A book was put out many years ago. And she adapted it for our Unitarian Universalist space. So, dear ones, I'm going to invite you to be vulnerable with yourselves, and know that we are here with you in this space. Each of these rituals invites you to look within yourself, to look into your past, be mindful of your present, and to fix an aspiration for the future. Before you are spaces for lamentation, for petition, for confession, and for intention. The tools we will use are quite simple. The results, we hope, are not. Each of you may take different meaning away from this experience. A facet of vulnerability includes any grief that you may have that's lingering in what is past. We grieve, we honor, and we lament. We acknowledge what is on our hearts as we sit here together. Our hopes and fears, our requests of the universe. This is our present. And what we choose to do tomorrow with intention is our future. The 4 tables here in this room represent movement from past to future. Each has a purpose. For this table, we present to you a safe space for lamentation for what is lost. You're invited to create tears of healing by mixing a little salt into a bowl of water, stirring the salt in, and speaking aloud the sorrows on your heart. Sorrows such as people or opportunities that have been lost. Here is a table that embodies petition. Here is a space to petition the universe, asking for help in the face of obstructions in your life. Hold the petition in your mind or speak it softly as you blow gently on the pinwheel, scattering your requests to the wind. This third table embodies confession. Here is a place where you can confess and write your hopes and fears, for the power of the written word cannot be denied. Write your hopes or your fears on these pieces of paper. Place them face down in the basket. No one will look at them, and they will be ritually burned at our fire communion on January 1st. And the final table, which embodies intention. At this table, you are invited to say aloud something you will do to move yourself forward, be that emotionally or spiritually. And then you take a pinch of the blue sand and put it into the white sand and stir it in. And then you may take a rock, if you wish, to mark your intention, to keep the stone as a reminder of promises you made to yourself. My friends, this is a community where we create brave space. We often try to create safe space, but I tell you, space is relative. We do as we wish, we hope, we pray, we care for one another, and we create as safe a space as possible. But it requires bravery to be vulnerable. You might think of this bowl of water here as holding your tears, or perhaps the bowl that's holding your tears as this community, holding your sorrows, your grief, your losses. You might think of this white sand as this community, supporting you as you live out your intentions. As you breathe out your petitions, know that we are all breathing out our collective petitions and releasing them into the universe. Know that we face obstructions together, as the confession cards will not be read by anyone. We offer you courage to face your fears and bolster your hopes. Each table has the instructions I've laid out for you, and I will be here. As we go from space to space, you can start at any table, move through this process in any way you choose. Each ritual may be useful to you, or you may choose only one. It's where you are today. Use these as they may be useful to you on your spiritual journey. With love and blessings of this community and the grace that this universe offers, we will now begin our ritual. Please come up as you wish. Together, we have shed tears, lamented past losses, together we have petitioned the universe and asked for help. Together, we have confessed our hopes and our fears. And together we have spoken aloud and promised to keep intentions we have made to ourselves by mixing this sand fresh new journey. And while the path ahead of you may be littered with crevices and boulders, and we know there will be mistakes and missteps, know this too. Despite any obstruction, mistake, or misstep, we move forward and seek to be in authentic relationship with ourselves and with each other. Individually and together, we will not shy away from this journey. We will not shy away from our vulnerability, because we are agents of change. We have set our intentions and will keep them with us. A promise we made to ourselves to move forward, both individually and collectively. Let us be, from this point on, the people who are actually in the arena, whose faces may be marred by dust and sweat and blood, but who strive valiantly. Let us acknowledge that we are people who err, who will come up short again and again, and may we further acknowledge that there is no effort without error, no effort without shortcoming. Each person here and this congregation will strive to do great deeds, make difficult changes in their lives. Each person here in this congregation will dare to be vulnerable with each other in the sure expectation that you are loved here just exactly as you are.